Welcome back to MedTech's Empire State Biomed Focus 22 series and our conversations with innovators in the region. As you know, today we're focusing on Central New York and the Mohawk Valley. And I'm pleased to be joined by Lorenzo D'Amico of Triton Bio, really a terrific startup with its roots here in the Central New York and Mohawk Valley. Lorenzo, thank you for being with us and welcome to our program.
My pleasure.
Let's start, if you don't mind, in where we always start in these conversations, and that is, tell us about the problem that you identified.
Yeah, I'm happy to clarify that. It's a long journey, but what we kind of came to realize, I was a postdoc actually in the Texas Medical Center for a while, and we recognized that microorganisms cause disease, as we all know very well now, but they're also an important part of human health and animal health and environmental health. And the reality is that there are organisms everywhere impacting every aspect of our lives, but nature is a pretty messy place. It's difficult to predict what organisms are impacting which aspect of human physiology. It's difficult to detect and characterize pathogenic organisms. And what we came to understand after really a couple of years of digging into this was that the root cause of the challenges was around being able to isolate microorganisms without destroying them. And so to summarize that, the problem is rooted in the fact that microbes, despite their importance, despite being almost ubiquitous, it's very difficult to analyze them in a laboratory setting.
So you've identified the problem. What's your solution?
Yeah, it's multifaceted, actually. So a key component of what we do is novel instrumentation. So we've invented and built a prototype system that allows us to isolate microbes directly from really any sample type. We have focused largely on human specimens, so blood, urine, fecal matter. But the other components of our solution are sort of information sciences and current and conventional molecular biology techniques. And so really all of these three aspects together, hence the concept of the Triton, forms what we call a digital microbiology platform.
Tell me more. Help me understand the application of your solution.
Yeah, so our first sort of application is to help drug developers deconvolve the microbial interactions that impact the gut in humans. And so many drug companies are either developing organisms as drug products, or they're interested in how their small molecule drugs are modified by microbes in the gut ecosystem. And so it's a very complex system, so it's very difficult to pinpoint what's happening when a patient takes a drug. Your microbiome in your gut is going to be different from mine. And so the complexity of that problem kind of requires a multifaceted approach to triangulate what's happening. And so the value of our platform is to allow drug developers to gain insight into when a patient ingests a drug, these organisms are modifying the drug in this way so that we can predict the patient's response to, for example, a chemotherapeutic agent.
And tell me, so does this have applications in personalized medicine? Where do you see your solution impacting patient care and healthcare?
Absolutely. It has a huge impact in personalized medicine. Many people have actually called the human microbiome the lost organ or the overlooked organ. Microbiome in the gut, in the oral cavity, on your skin, it impacts essentially every aspect of your being, right? Your wellness, your ability to respond to therapy, your predisposition to certain ailments. And so because the microbiome is so individualized, it fits right into the paradigm of personalized medicine, being able to take a holistic snapshot or video, if you will, of somebody's molecular microbial composition over time would really empower physicians, drug developers to provide tailored therapies to individuals.
And let's turn to you, Lorenzo. Help me understand what's tell us about your journey as an innovator, as an entrepreneur. What brings you to this space? What motivates you?
That's a good question. So my training is in biomedical engineering, and I think that gives me a certain advantage as an entrepreneur because almost by definition, biomedical engineering or bioengineering is a pretty broad discipline. And as you go through the curricula as a student, um, you really get a glimpse into many different aspects of both, hardware engineering, software systems, but also the life sciences. And that's really important in my role now as a CEO, as an entrepreneur, as a founder, because you have to be able to look at many different angles of a problem, synthesize sort of complex information to develop an effective solution. So it's almost like I was trained for this role. I didn't really have that specific job title in mind when I was going to school, but it makes a lot of sense in today's sort of bioeconomy where the convergence of disciplines is really where we see the most effective solutions to really problems that have haunted humanity for time immemorial, really.
Well, and I appreciate hearing how your background helped you, but I'm also interested to know about Lorenzo. Help
Sure.
me know. So you have this terrific background, but clearly something motivated you to identify a problem, to seek a solution, and then to start a business around that. Give us some sense about your journey there.
Yeah, I can add some more color there. So, truthfully, I think I've always just been excited, interested in nature. Biology was a great way to kind of, focus myself. I think the engineering aspect was thrilling because there's this level of being able to build something new. And I think that last part there really speaks to kind of who I am as a person. Even if it's not companies, even if it's like clubs or, anything really in my personal life, I just love to create new things. I love to come up with new ideas. I think that the motivation to start a company, though, I can really attribute to some specific factors. So, I think that many other people who are sort of scientists turned CEOs, many of us had ambitions to kind of stay in the academy and conduct research, maybe start our own laboratories. But I feel like the environment of the academy is not necessarily geared toward what is necessary to get a startup going and to be successful, for example, in a beachhead market and grow from there. And so, why, but still kind of why start a company? And I think the real motivation there was it kind of dawned on me after being in the academy for a few years, it wasn't the right environment to take an idea and turn it into a solution that could be executed on and distributed more broadly, right? That could be scaled as a product or as a wide-reaching service. It's just sort of the infrastructure is not quite set up for that, and it's really good at what it does, right? The generation of new knowledge. But I think translating that into a product that a patient can receive to cure an ailment, or a service that researchers can come to and get really great insight to move their products along their development pipelines. That type of organizational framework, the speed at which that organization has to operate, the type of talent that it has to recruit, that requires, in my opinion, sort of a standalone entity that is a corporation.
And tell us what's your vision for Triton Bio as we were to look out 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, and longer? Where do you see the company headed?
Yeah, we have great ambitions around what this company can accomplish. The way we want to start is by providing services because that helps improve our platform. We can build our team. We can build really important relationships with other players in the economy. But, thinking further ahead, the way that I see our future going is that we understand that microorganisms work together in communities to accomplish very useful things for themselves and for their ecosystems. And the gut in the human body is a great example of that. In the biotechnology industry to date, we've really relied on kind of like monocultures, so individual organisms to produce cheese or beer. And that's very effective from an industrial standpoint, but it actually greatly limits what we can accomplish with microorganisms in terms of producing, for example, new medicines, new food ingredients. I want Triton to be a key resource and a leader actually in that area. And so I believe that what's happening in our company and the partners that we have is that we're building a new discipline, which is kind of like microbiome engineering, not microbial engineering. And that's in my mind, a quantum leap for the life science community and what we'll be able to accomplish.
And we're focused today on Central New York, the Mohawk Valley, more broadly, upstate New York. What brings you here? And have there been particular connections or collaborations that have helped you along your journey?
Yeah, so my father is actually from the Rochester area. So we had ties here growing up. But what actually brought me here was the pandemic. I decided to move back to my father's home, just kind of be isolated away from everybody. And I still wanted to continue my work for Triton. And so I kind of hopped online and I found some incredible resources, really from Western New York all the way to downstate, upstate. I was plugged in almost immediately. And I have to give a lot of credit to the Central New York Biotech Accelerator in Syracuse, Kathy Durden. That's been a real important anchor for us. Extremely valuable. I can't even really describe. I mean, I'll try to, but yeah, it's been an amazing partnership. And there are more than just BAC, but yeah, really excited to be a part of that.
So I'm curious, in our conversations, we've talked to people who are Central New York natives. We've talked to people who have moved to Central New York after having lived in other parts of the country. Sounds to me like you may have a little combination of both. I'm curious to know from your perspective, is there something in the water up here? What is it that distinguishes this region from Texas or from other parts of the country where you've worked and been?
That's a good question. I do believe that ultimately it comes down to people. And it's difficult to maybe articulate this, but I feel like there's a level of connectedness in the Central New York, Western New York, that region where I've mostly been spending my time building Triton. There's a kind of, it's almost like there's an element of like, what can we do to help you as a startup, as a founder? And that's something that I think you don't really find everywhere. I think that, if you're in Kendall Square in Boston, you're just kind of like, welcome to the club. Everybody's start doing this. And there's this level of sort of, it's a great innovative ecosystem, but I do think that there's this sort of network of support that is so accessible. And that's really it. I think that there's people involved that have institutional resources, but they genuinely want to help. And the BAC is a perfect example of that. I feel like the folks there, they bend over backwards really to help us get going, to make sure we have what we need, or connect us to the people that may have it in the region if they don't have it themselves.
And you used a phrase that I'm going to turn back on you in our last couple of minutes. We've got an audience here. Perhaps some folks would love to connect with you, connect with Triton Bio. So let me ask you the question: how can we help? What is it that you're looking for? Are there connections or collaborations that you'd like to tell our audience about?
Yeah. So Triton has a number of, I think, important partnerships. One of them is with the Center for Advanced Microelectronics Manufacturing at Binghamton University. So they help us manufacture a key component in our instrument. We're building a relationship now with University of Buffalo, the bioinformatics genomics core facility there. And Syracuse University, actually, we recruit students out of the CASE co-op program, really bright, enthusiastic students that really help us move forward. So yeah, I can actually, I feel like I keep going. There's so many other groups around the area that have, always been willing to jump on the phone. And I'm happy if other people who are listening in on this conversation want to learn more, they can reach out to me directly on LinkedIn. If you go through the website and email to the website, I receive that as well. I'd love to connect with anybody else who's interested in coming to New York or who is in New York and wants to learn more about building a company. I think that's vitally important for the American economy, really, that more people take on this, what is a daunting challenge, but it's really important. I mean, the level of personal growth, regional growth from economic development, starting a business is the way to do it.
Well, I don't think we could have ended that on a better note. So, Lorenzo D'Amico, thank you for being with us today. For folks who are interested in learning more about Triton Bio or connecting with Lorenzo, you can find more at their website, Triton Bio, TritonBio.com. Lorenzo D'Amico, thanks for spending some time with us today.
Yeah, thank you.